So with that, I think the bigger picture that I'm going to draw here from a lot of these is not the that college football coaches are leaving because the job is terrible. I believe what's happening is college coaches are leaving programs that they feel don't care. Moving on here. I mentioned Chip Kelly before there, and a lot of people are like, oh, Chip Kelly, yeah, he left the head coach at UCLA to come over to Ohio State as an offensive coordinator. What the heck is going on here? What's going on with all these coaches leaving? I want to talk about Chip Kelly first, because it's a really interesting story to hear how desperate he was to leave. And then also what this actually means for college football, because a lot of people are worried about, how do I say this? The NFL, college right now, there's so much chaos and this and that. People are just like, I don't even want to do that anymore. Anybody who's competent is going to leave college football. We're just going to go to the NFL. I don't think that's the narrative. I think that the narrative for that is arguably connected to conference realignment and a couple of things like that. I'll mention why that is in a second here. But first, we're going to go through an article here about Chip Kelly, because it's really interesting to hear kind of where this all stemmed from. Coming over here, and this was on the 9th of February. It says Chip Kelly just wants to coach ball. And I'm telling you, that is partially true as to what's happening with head coaches in college football. It's partially true. We'll get into that in a second. But his exit from UCLA is concerning amid college football's hazy future. So we come down here and check this out with what he's had. So again, thinking about his compensation, Chip Kelly wanted out, not just out of UCLA, but out of being a college level head coach. How else can you reasonably explain his decision to give up $6 million salary for the 2024 season and the $4 million buyout he would have received after he was likely fired following that season, all to become the offensive coordinator at Ohio State? So he goes to Ohio State. He takes a big pay cut to go there. He's getting $10 million. Even if you get fired, if you go 0-12, you still get $10 million from UCLA. But he decided to leave. And again, a lot of people here are mentioning the fact that, oh, there's a lot of emphasis on these people are leaving for the NFL levels. What's going on here? Why everything like that? I'm telling you, the bigger issue here is with a couple things related to UCLA and related to programs that care about college football. Let me open up here, and I'm going to share a screen about a video. I'm not going to play the video because I don't want a copyright struck, but I want to make sure you could see this here because it's important. So over here on the Rich Eisen Show, I'm not going to play the video. It's going to be in the description here. CFB insider Bruce Feldman, why Chip Kelly left UCLA to be Ohio State's OC. So for him, he got to UCLA in 2018. That was right around then, was right when NIL started to come through. And unfortunately, there's a hidden secret. It's a terribly unheld. It's not held. It's held. It's not held. It's not a big secret here. I just said it was a secret. It's not a secret. Just stick with me on what I'm saying here. The big issue with this is that there's a lot of programs in college football. And actually, the true thing is there's actually a lot of professional organizations in pro football that don't really care about winning. I know that's going to sound crazy. There's a couple programs in the NFL, a couple organizations that winning is not prioritized. It's like, oh, yeah, maybe it's cool. All right, cool. I mean, maybe if it happens, cool. But even more so, that happens in college sports. College sports is actually, there's fewer teams. There's more teams, and there's a fewer percentage of teams that can win the national championship on a year-to-year basis as compared to the NFL. I know maybe not right now because the Chiefs are running that thing. I know it hurts me as a Raiders fan, but good for them. They deserve it. They're the best team. But right now, what's happening is Bruce Feldman basically said that when he got there was a lot of new challenges thrown at him his way. And I don't know necessarily if he was getting the support that he wanted. Now, a lot of people say, oh, he left head coach to go to Ohio State. First of all, you still have to recruit. You still have to go to banquets, and you have to do certain things there. But the narrative that you just don't get to work anymore because you're now just a head coach, I kind of get that. And again, that will feed into some of the stories here. But the bigger issue is I believe that UCLA does not care as much about winning football as other programs do. Again, the narrative he said here was the fact that USC, they really care about winning football. They will do whatever it takes to get Lincoln Riley. They'll do whatever it takes to get this player. They really, really care about football. They have within 2018 until now, they have 8 plus figures of NIL money to distribute. That's $10 million or more to distribute. That, and again, number could be $40 million. I don't know. I mean, it's just saying they've got an 8-figure amount of NIL they deal out regularly. Bruce Feldman said that UCLA has less than 7 figures, so less than $1 million. So when USC shows up and they've got $10 million purse, let's just say, and UCLA shows up and they've got $999,999. Again, that's optimistically thinking. USC can win those negotiations. Now, I know you're saying, "Oh, well, that's cheating." Yeah, it's cheating. Everybody's doing it right now. As a matter of fact, that's the reason why Tennessee is going to do war with the NCAA, is because of this uh, inconsistent enforcement, is what we'll say. But basically, Bruce, the big picture of what he said here was, he got there. He wants to coach. He didn't reach out. Whether or not he didn't reach out to the alumni or the alumni didn't reach out to him, either way, the impetus, the desire, and the want to that USC has was not at US or UCLA. So with that, I think the bigger picture that I'm going to draw here from a lot of these is not that that college football coaches are leaving because the job is terrible. I believe what's happening is college coaches are leaving programs that they feel don't care. That's the bigger point I'm going to draw here. And I think, unfortunately, USC versus UCLA, it ain't a question. All right, let me go through here and show this next link here. As a matter of fact, although he left this off season, he's been trying to do this for some time. After last season, so about a year ago around this time, we're all thinking like, oh, how bad was Chip Kelly wanting to get out? Chip Kelly was trying to get out of his job for a while. Cincinnati interviewed Chip Kelly, Cincinnati Bearcats, not the Bengals, the Bearcats, for their head coaching position. So again, remember here, think about that. The narrative, he wants to leave being a college football head coach. Why did he go to Cincinnati? Why did he go there? So if you think about that, he was trying to get out of UCLA so bad. He would go to a formerly American and now Big 12 team that just went 3-9 this past season. So not exactly, I mean, again, Scott Satterfield was the guy they just hired, so we'll see what happens with him. But unfortunately, I'm telling you right now, the narrative that we have that Chip Kelly didn't want to be a head coach is just wrong. Take that, throw it away. He interviewed at Cincinnati, a team that volatile passed into the Big 12, not necessarily a top light. He was trying to leave a team he knew was going into the Big 10 before that season. For some time, he's known they were going into the Big 10. Still, it doesn't matter. I want to go to Cincinnati, a Big 12 team, rather than going for UCLA, because he knows whether or not it was higher or lower, whatever it is, the amount of support he was at Cincinnati versus the amount of pressure. That could probably be a thing there, because I don't know how supportive Cincinnati is. I don't know what kind of NIL collectives they have versus UCLA, but I do know that the comparative support of the program versus the other ones, because if you think about like UCLA is going to have to beat the teams they have to beat in the future. USC, which I mean they did this season, but USC ultimately, like, they probably still are going to be the team going forward. USC, Washington, Oregon. Washington will step back probably a little bit. I like Jed Fish a lot. Oregon is good. Oregon's going to be good. Okay. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Those guys. That's all you got to do is just beat all them. Okay. And those are the teams you're going to be competing against. Now, Cincinnati versus Iowa State, Cincinnati versus UCF, Cincinnati versus Kansas is probably a discrepancy. They're probably not as high as those teams, but it's not a tectonic shift like UCLA to Ohio State. That's not the same, okay? One team really cares. The other team, meh. I think Cincinnati cares, though, but versus the amount of like competition he'd have at Cincinnati versus at UCLA, he's like, dude, I got to get out of this place. Wasn't able to do it. Ultimately left after this offseason to be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State after Bill O'Brien left because Jeff Hafley left to go to the Packers. Then Bill O'Brien goes to the Boston College Eagles, and then Ohio State needs an offensive coordinator. They add Chip Kelly. It's the carousel. That's exactly what happens here. And I want to address this too, because the AD at Alabama had issues with this as well. But I think he's getting it wrong here. Alabama Athletics Director Greg Byrne is concerned about a trend of college coaches leaving from the NFL. And again, he goes through this here. Now, I want to make sure, because Alabama, I'm telling you, he was not very aware of what this comment was about. relative to his situation with what he did to college football. I'll bring that up in a second here. First of all, the big one that we wanted to talk about, I already mentioned Jeff Hafley leaving from uh, Boston College as the head coach there to after winning a bowl game, and then goes over to the Packers. And a lot of people are, oh, well, these coaches are trying to leave. They don't even want to be in college football anymore. Well, I'm like, that's not necessarily true. I think, again, going back to my narrative, people are leaving jobs where they don't care for jobs where people do care. Here's what I mean. Literally speaking of Alabama there. Oh, they're just trying to leave the NFL. They're just trying to get out of here. False. So when we come over here to Kane Womack was the head coach at South Alabama in 21, 22, and 23. He went 5-7, 10-3, and then 7-6 with a win over the 68 Ventures Bowl. He's got that bowl championship, whatever that is there. Think about it, they went 4-4 in the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt was a tough league. So why did he leave the head coaching position at South Alabama for the defensive coordinator position at South Alabama? He left the head coach of South Alabama to be the DC at Alabama. Why would he do that? Well, one, it's actually because it's a step up in job. First of all, that's the big point there. Also, it's because, listen, I can go here, go 7-6, win the freaking 68 Ventures Bowl, something like that. But if I go to Alabama and I have one good season, if I have 2 good seasons, I'm going to be the head coach at Tennessee in a couple of years. I know I'm not saying they're going to get rid of, I'm just saying like that quality of program is what I'm trying to say there. So Kane Womack is another example. Also, another narrative here is we go within the SEC again, because the SEC programs, to say what you want about them, they care. We're going into the SEC again to go through our dear friend, Mr. Sean Elliott. What did he just do? So Sean Elliott, formerly the head coach at Georgia State, again in the Sun Belt. So he was at Georgia State, and he goes 7-5, 2-10, 7-6, 6-4, 8-5, 4-8, and 7-6 with a win in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl right over here, my friends. He does that now. He's like, well, I could stay here, I could do this and that, or I could be the tight end coach at South Carolina. So again, he's been to South Carolina before. It's a place he's been before. Ultimately, he's like, you know what? I would rather. So he left South Carolina's offensive line coach to be Georgia State's head coach for, what is that? That we got 7 seasons there. Ultimately, he's like, you know what, dude? I like my future. I like the resources. I like the environment better. I mean, he's from South Carolina. We'll see what he wants to do there. But I do know that for him, again, he graduated from App State. But for him, he decides I would rather go to a place that I know I'm supported, that I know wants to win. I'm not trying to say that Georgia State doesn't, but the level of caring from Georgia State to South Carolina, even if South Carolina hasn't had the seasons you've wanted them to have, I'm telling you, it's palpable. Also, speaking of UCLA, I'm telling you, speaking of UCLA, if we're talking about a team that just doesn't care versus the team that does care, the great thing about this is you don't got to go very far to see the fact that your crosstown rival stole your top-level defensive coordinator. It was with Chip Kelly this last season. They were fantastic defenses last year. They were the number 1 team against the run. They were one of the top teams in terms of pressures and sacks. They were an unbelievable defense up front. He goes over to USC. So they're both at USC, or they're both at UCLA. Chip Kelly, head coach, and DeAnton Lynn, the defensive coordinator. And then both of them are gone after the season, even though they're both going to the Big Ten. We're going to the Big Ten. We got Big Ten money coming in. Everything's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. Because that the resources, a lot of these people make business decisions. For DeAnton, it was probably a business decision. He was like, yeah, I'm probably going to get more money at UCLA or USC versus UCLA. They just care a lot more. So all I'm saying is that for these people who are worried about, the fact that people don't want to be college head coaches anymore, people don't want to be college coaches anymore, I don't think that's the narrative. I think the true narrative draw is the fact that when you look at Chip Kelly, DeAnton Lynn, you look at, Alabama, be able to take the head coach from South Alabama. You look at the head coach at Georgia State leaving to go back to South Carolina to be a position coach, a tight end coach. The narrative people don't want to be college coaches anymore is not a true one, but the narrative that people don't want to be around programs that the program doesn't care about winning, that's 100% true. I think that's a big reason why going forward in conference realignment, I'm worried about the subtractions coming. Vanderbilt was valuable, when they were the big, honking education school in the universities, in the group of universities in the SEC. Add in Texas, and all of a sudden it's like, are we sure we really need you guys anymore? And again, I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of pro football organizations that don't care about winning, and there's way more college football organizations and universities that don't care about winning. So with that, people aren't leaving college football; they're leaving college football programs that don't care. But anyways, I'll see you guys later. Remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. Also go on my X account. Like me, tweet at me, anything you want if you want to see certain things. But that's it for me, guys. I'll see you guys later. I am out.